there, trying to bring more people in.
You're on.
Okay, I think we're ready to start.
You have to get us to be quiet.
I know. It's like lunchtime. It's like
Don't make me throw T-shirts. Either that or I'll throw highlighters.
Right, exactly.
It's the best I got.
Thank you for coming to our session today. Session title, Lection Capture as Easy as 1, 2, 3. I really give you a lot of credit because this is the lunch hour and my stomach's getting a little grumbling too. So I'm really appreciative that you're here. It's a privilege to be with you. I'm from Grabs Community College, and I'm going to introduce myself in a minute. But what we hope to have is just a conversation and dialogue. I'm glad this is a small room because we can exchange information with each other, have just a lot of interesting exchanges with each other on how we're approaching this whole idea of lecture capture. My name is Eric Cunnin, and I work as a coordinator of instructional technologies at Grand Rapids Community College. I also co-facilitate one of our online courses for teaching our teachers how to teach online. One of my major responsibilities now is we had a department 3 years ago called Distance Learning and Learning Technologies. 3 years ago, we got rid of that department, and then now, fast forward to today, we have a department called Distance Learning and Instructional Technology. So one of my major focuses right now is really trying to leverage technology for doing online delivery of courses, hybrid courses, and those sorts of things, but also investigating emerging technologies, things like Second Life and things like live classroom tools and lecture capture and instant messaging and all these Web 2.0 tools that we have access to nowadays. Another one of my responsibilities, because I have a background in teaching, is to work with faculty. And so I have a lot of kind of experience with, just from a professional development standpoint, working with faculty, answering questions, and that sort of thing. But we also have, luckily, a Center of Teaching and Learning kind of concept called the Learning Academy, where that's kind of where the majority of the training happens on our campus now. So I provide another resource as a backup for them, too. And then we also have a faculty laptop program where all of our faculty, full-time faculty, have to qualify that, have tablet PCs. And so one of the things that we're always continually trying to figure out is, now that we have these devices and faculty are carrying them with them to meetings, offices, classroom, how can we leverage that technology and how can we get them to, get the return on investment there? And what is the advantage? What is the relative advantage of using that tool in teaching and learning? And I have with me here Rich Boys, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Rich Boys, and I'm a product manager with TechSmith Corporation. We're out of Okemos, Michigan. And previous to going to TechSmith, I was at the University of Michigan as an IT administrator and then an IT manager for 12 years and spent my last 7 years there at the School of Information supporting faculty and working on campus projects. So come from the educational background, and that's why they brought me over to TechSmith.
Cool. So lecture capture is easy as 1, 2, 3. What I wanted to do is break apart the program here, the abstract we have in the program, and actually go through it with you, because I want to make sure that we cover all the things that you're expecting us to cover. But one of the first and foremost things here is most faculty really don't have time to learn costly or complex applications to use in their day-to-day teaching. Most of the faculty, at least on our campus, are pretty busy in their day-to-day teaching schedules, office hours, advising students, working with students. And so plus we don't really want them to focus on the technology. We want the technology to be transparent. We want them to be able to walk in a classroom, continue to teach the way they are used to teaching, and not have that technology be so cumbersome and get in the way and, okay, wait a minute, stop class, I got to push this button or whatever. So that's one of the most important parts of this presentation. Can you push me forward? Apparently it's not. Thank you. So we actually, and this kind of what brought us to TechSmith. TechSmith is a local company. They make a product called Camtasia. A lot of you are probably familiar with that screen capture tool. And about a year ago, they came to our campus. We had a lot of great discussions around where we were going as a campus, realizing that we now have all these faculty laptops out there. How do we take this and use these laptops in the classroom? How do we leverage this technology? And so that's why we're kind of plugged in the relationship with TechSmith. And then really, taking from the stance of looking at what happens in the classroom, how do we capture that and how do we deliver that easily in multiple formats? That's another kind of big thing in this session. And then we're going to actually participate in a live demo of the application we're going to be talking about today. And then finally, we have a little bit of information for you on a handout. Is there anything that drew you to this session that why are you sitting here other than, you're interested obviously in lecture capture, but is this the right area? Is there something that? Okay, integrity, great. So you're. Right. Right. You're using the Integrity online system, not the Podium that.
We have those.
Okay.
We bought it up for the whole school.
Okay.
For 5 campuses.
Cool.
We're starting to learn how to use it.
Yep.
And now we're thinking about getting the right one.
Good. We're kind of investigating things too. So good. Anyone else? Perfect. Oh, yes.
I'm in that same boat. It was the exact same thing. We've had it for a couple of years. And I want a floating toolbar. So that you don't have to go down to the system tray and pick whatever you're
Yep.
using.
Okay, great. So, and you guys are already kind of talking back to us. It's great. This is an informal presentation, so let's keep that up.
And we're doing the first part of the live demo now because we're actually recording this whole thing. So we'll give you the URL when we're done.
Right. So a little bit, I hate to go to conferences and people spend about a half an hour in their college, but really briefly, I think it helps frame who we are and kind of how we're approaching things, how we're looking at challenges and issues to our institution. Established in 1914, one of the 28 community colleges in Michigan. We're a main kind of downtown campus, commuter campus. All students drive to campus, and the number one student feedback thing is what? Around frustration. Parking, yes. So we have that situation. We have 2 technical education centers where construction trades, automotive repair, those types of programs happen. Well, 15,000 students attend our institution on the credit side every single semester, and then another 10,000 or so in non-credit courses. So what are some of these issues and challenges? So we have this kind of aspect of faculty and students driving a lot of things that are happening now. Students are coming to campus. Faculty are coming to campus with their devices. We have faculty with laptops. The full-time faculty have laptops. So a lot of, they're starting to ask questions of how can I use this tool in my teaching? The education experience is actually changing too. There's expectations around, I want this piece of lecture on demand. I want it now. I want to be able to record it, rewind it, like this TiVo aspect of the classroom, right? On demand. And the campus is really expanding. So we have the ability now to say, not just kind of focusing on what happens in the classroom, that's obviously important, but the classroom is extending. There's things that happen outside of the classroom that are very, very valuable. There are things that, informal learning opportunities outside of the classroom that are just as valuable, if not even more so, than what happens in the classroom. A lot of learning that we know and understand to be effective happens in these informal, out of the classroom, hallway discussions, and those sorts of things. So extending kind of the boundaries of that. And then we have, realistically, budget constraints and complaints. Digital divide is also really, an important thing. The haves and the have-nots, and like the keynote this morning, we have that even wage-wise, kind of a disparate group of, that people that have the degrees, people that don't, and so there's kind of that dynamic happening here. It's a real challenge that we have to engage with, and we have what we know to be somewhat true, I think, is that this whole aspect of retention is a big thing on our campus, and student achievement and student success, and how do we bring those values up? How do we retain more students? How do we, engage more students? And as Sandy Schugert mentioned, what are those circumstances and situations that enable learning? So continuously looking at that is important. And then diverse student populations. We're a community college, just like most of you are, from the standpoint of, some older adult coming back for retraining. They lost their job at GM or whatever. And then the traditional students coming up through our local school district. And then we also have this really important issue, I think, around just how complex applications can be. We were talking earlier with I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, Carol, about just, there's these tools we have available on campus, but yet we kind of don't have time to learn them, and they're complex, and, how do I fit my time and my schedule to figure out, okay, I need to do this, and I need to do that, and then what step do I need to do to post it to Blackboard again? So there's all these different things that have to happen, and very confusing, and limit the innovation, limit our use of all these technologies. And then there is a need for a solution, really, to meet all these needs and more. Can you do one more? There you go. I know this is a smaller picture, and I can't really see it all that well from the back of the room. But I just snapped this picture on my way out to the conference, and I found it very interesting. And the reason is because there's, 6 students here. Every single one of them have laptops. So one of the things I think that's interesting is that from our campus perspective, and I would say within the past 2 years, I've noticed this really a lot more, and that relates to our wireless kind of network. We have complete wireless on campus, and within that 2 years, it's just really interesting to see how students are driving the expectations. They're saying, I want my syllabus online. How come you're not using Blackboard? Why can't I see this lecture again? Why can't I replay this over again? So that's an important aspect of this. And then this is also coming up in the media. So this is a New York Times article from December, I think it is. And so this idea of lecture capture, of replaying what happens in class, is really kind of getting into the mainstream here. These days, the students who miss class, they can play it back on their MP3 player. They can pull out their iPhone and look at it again or whatever. So it's becoming more important. So Campus Technology is a really good resource. If you haven't checked out, it's a journal that they do a lot of unique publications and a lot of timely things around technology. This I pulled off from their archive, and while this may not be statistically significant, I think it's important that if you click the next thing there, I might as well give this up because this is not working. Is that 35% of classrooms, according to this poll, are not equipped at all whatsoever. And I would say that's true on our campus. We're trying to figure this out as a campus. We're trying to figure out, all those questions around, how do we do this? Should we do this? And I have a couple of slides around, do students even want it? So, and then I think a good indicator too here is that, almost 3/4 say that fewer than 25% of their classes even have any type of recording technology in their classes. How many of you are actually doing lecture capture? I know some of you mentioned Integrity, but raise your hand if you're using lecture capture right now. Okay, so about 3 or so of you. Are you using Integrity too, or some Echo 360 other?
No, we're just using a little handheld.
Okay. So audio only. Okay, good. Thanks for sharing that. So we asked our students. One of the things we have with the Blackboard portal is that we have the ability to ask students things. And these are not statistically significant, again, so I know they're not research-oriented, but it gives us a good pulse of what's happening on our campus. So I always have to clarify that, because there's always someone, when I send these reports out to our various constituencies on campus, someone will reply with, this is not statistically significant, I'm like, yeah, that's true, but, it gives us a good feel, because, yeah, obviously in order to reply to this poll, you have to log into Blackboard first, so, it's kind of a nature. But I think, the interesting thing is, they're saying that lecture capture, being able to play back their streaming, lecture later is very valuable to them. Even some say valuable. So 85% of the students that are replying to this are saying, I would enjoy this. I would benefit from this as a student. And then also, they really want the streaming format also. Having it on their iPod is great, and in iTunes, great. I've been to a couple of iTunes U sessions, great technology. But they also want the ability to play it right back there. Our instructors want the ability to embed that streaming link right into their course, right next to that piece of content they're talking about to help illustrate a point. And then we also have to be cautious a little bit. We received this email recently from a student when I actually put the poll up here. He said, he probably said not very valuable. He was probably one of those not very valuable. But he said, I don't like this. It's going to cause students to become lazy. It's going to, allow people to skip class and then make it all up later. That's not fair for me sitting in class. So I think we need to be real that there's those perspectives out there. Do we have a specific solution around that? No, we're entertaining that as a question. And then at the conference, there's a lot of different podcasting sessions. Quite a few of them, actually. I went through the conference program and searched for the word podcast. And there's 10 or so plus sessions around podcasting. And podcasting is one way of taking information from your course, your lecture, and putting it up on the web. And we're looking at that too, as an institution. We're looking at lecture capture as being one of the ways of garnering that media for the podcast in general. So the instructor can be in their office. They can also be in their classroom and doing it live. So what is this whole idea of lecture capture? Because we've spent a whole lot of time talking about a lot of different various aspects of lecture capture, but I think it's really important to zero in on what this whole idea, at least how we're framing this idea of lecture capture. And really it's around capturing what happens in a face-to-face classroom. Not specifically, though, because you could be in your office and capture these tools, a various tutorial or something you want to explain to students, maybe a photosynthesis explanation or whatever. So it's not limited to the classroom, but what we're looking at here from an institution perspective is, again, figuring out how can we leverage these laptops that faculty are carrying with them to their classes, and how do we take that and use that resource to then also capture something. And so it's capturing what's happening on the screen, sometimes video. All of our laptops we've deployed to faculty are tablet PCs, so if they use a whiteboard technology on there, a Windows Journal, that anything they use as a replacement for that kind of chalkboard, if you think in terms of what happens on the chalkboard, a lot of times stays on the chalkboard, or the blackboard or the whiteboard in the room, having the ability of that tablet PC then to, annotate something and then distribute that right back to the students, capture it in a sort of way is really important. And then a lot of the capture systems have the ability to distribute videos in various formats. So I also wanted to kind of zero in to kind of put a big picture on this, because I think it's important to understand lecture capture is something that happens in a face-to-face setting versus live classroom tools. And there actually is an Illuminate session going on right now, I think down the hall, around a tool that does live classroom stuff. So the ability to broadcast your classroom live, display some slides, chat with your students, and those sort of things. That's not kind of where our focus is. And if you hit the next one there, the live classroom features really are around doing an online meeting or doing an online class. We're interested in that technology, but that's not where our focus is for this session. And so I know this is a busy slide, and you're going to have access to these resources later, but I kind of wanted to put it all up there because I think it's important. On the left, you have lecture capture tools, and specifically we're focused around the enterprise kind of capability, kind of deploying it in such a way that it's one click for the instructor, and behind the scenes all this automation and magic happens, versus these end-user workstation-leveled products like Camtasia Studio, which is a great product, and other free tools that are available for you. Not that you can't use those stuff in conjunction with that, but just, we really want to try to find a way from our instructors to remove that complexity. I don't know how to use Camtasia Studio. It's a pretty, once you get into it, it's a pretty, very powerful tool, but we want to be able to, meet those instructors that are, just used to actually undocking their tablet from their, docking station in their office, right? So we want to, try to break, that digital divide among faculty also. And then here's some positives, and you can throw some out too as I read through these. But basically benefiting, kind of as we think in terms of lecture capture in general, we think in terms of better use of classroom time, better use of, better increase in retention rates. So students can go back to it later. They can get access to those resources if they're absent, if they're sick, if we have a snow day, if they can't get out of their driveway because the snowplow, pile all the snow in front of their driveway, which I have happened to me before, but I was able to plow through it. But and by the way, those of you that live in the Denver area, thanks for the snowstorm. It makes me feel right at home. And we need an efficient and effective way, really, of allowing instructors to leverage the technology and then get it into the teaching and into their pedagogy. Works well for fast-paced classes. I mean, let's face it, a lot of college classes are moving right along. You can't stop and ask a question. A lot of times, my wife teaches as an adjunct in the math department, and a lot of times she's torn between, okay, do I stop and answer this question? It's a great question, but you know what? I got to get through all these objectives. I need to get through this, this, and this. So I think lecture capture provides one of those ways of saying, you know what? We need to get to this material, and you know what? If you can't take notes quick enough or you can't follow through quick enough, you can do this later. Let's entertain that question. Let's take the time for some of those questions. And so it kind of helps, I think, in that aspect. And go ahead to the next slide there. So if a student is absent, they can still feel connected to what's happening. Allow us better opportunity for discussion. And I have this. If you stop by the SUSI booth in the exhibit hall, I really thought there was a page in here that was really interesting to me. One of them was kind of a pie chart on how much students actually interact with their instructor outside of class. It's only like 15% of students actually interact with their instructor outside of class, which I think is interesting. And then also in this, I'd pick it up. It's a nice little document here, it's an executive report. Just all the different ways faculty members use class time. So while we kind of are framing things around lecture capture, you can also capture all kinds of other things, right? You can do student presentations and guest speakers and all kinds of other things. So good information there in the SUSI booth there. Training is another capability. Let's go ahead and the next one is fine. Negative views of lecture capture. So there's all kinds of negative connotations of lecture capture, right? So my students won't come to class, a pretty common one we hear. Intellectual property. What about I worked hard on this. How do I want to protect that. And there are some ways of kind of password protecting things, but it's a real issue. This would just give students another excuse not to come to class, you know. Students need, in many cases, broadband access to use some of this. So if they're in a remote area, they might not be able to access these resources. There's also campus infrastructure bandwidth issues. You know, we had an issue earlier this semester where a lot of our faculty, now that they have their tablets and their laptops, starting to use clips from YouTube and things like that for instructional purposes. We had actually a circumstance that where kind of our bandwidth was creating some issues and started getting a bunch of calls. I'm trying to use this YouTube clip, right, in my class. It sounds weird to call your, you know, tech help desk to say, I'm trying to play a YouTube clip in my class, you know, but there are real instructional purposes behind these things. And so that's an issue. And then actually faculty do see, you know, seeing their teaching, they kind of wonder, you know, do I want everyone to see? Do I want my neighbor to see my teaching? You know, so there's aspects around that. But it's interesting is, you know, like there's a lot of institutions, MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, they're developing all kinds of material, posting them freely on the web. There's the Berkeley YouTube site. But there's also an element around user-generated content. Students, whether we like it or not, are starting to say, you know what, I want to take this content from my cell phone, record it, and put it up on the web. And in this case, I mean, you probably heard this, I don't know, instructor in, where was it? It's like, Arizona, I think. You know, he taught a humanities class, high school, I think, did kind of as a spirit week. She did like a cheerleading routine in her class. Student recorded that, put it on YouTube, and it kind of made Today's Show, and actually the teacher actually resigned. She got put on administrative leave, first of all, but ended up resigning from that. So is the classroom really a private thing now? I mean, it's becoming more open, I think. So it's a question there, too. So long story short here, we've got a lot of different things that we're looking at Grambus Community College. But we really want to find out a way of actually lowering the threshold for faculty to jump in and start using these tools, these devices that they have quick access to. So we need a system that has some enterprise level capability. We need it to scale. We need it to be robust enough for us to allow all of our faculty. Because really, if you think in terms of an institution, in order for really something to happen in a transformative way, you really need to get a lot of people using it. Because if you have a couple of instructors over here podcasting, that's great. Good for those students, but a lot of times what happens then is, well, what about these other faculty over here? And then sometimes the threshold is high enough to where the other faculty aren't able to, whether it's the complexity of the application or the steps required or whatever, it kind of is a barrier in and of itself. The technology is a barrier, so we're not going to remove that. We need it to be easy of use, and I'm going to rephrase that buy-in thing based on what Sandy mentioned yesterday around buy-in can be coercive or whatever. It's more about collaboration. How do we get these applications to be more effortless and indispensable? And effortless, I mean, click a button and everything's done behind the scenes for you. Indispensable meaning, how did I live without this technology before? I can't believe, what would I do without it? It's almost like electricity, right? I mean, or wireless connectivity. I go to some place and I'm like, oh, wireless? I can't get, I have to pay $12 for wireless? Or whatever, and it's like you kind of expect those things. And so what is that relative advantage, too, of the value of these tools? We're entertaining all these questions and really focusing on enhancement for students, engagement of students. And we want to meet students where they are. We want to ask students, how do we meet their needs? And that's why we have some of those polls in the Blackboard site also. And then the next slide. So lecture capture 1, 2, 3. I kind of cheated on step 2 because it's kind of like 2 steps. But step 1, launch the recorder. So we're going to talk about a product called Camtasia Relay. So it's an application on a computer, and we're actually going to show you in a live demo how this works. The instructor double-clicks on it, opens it up. They select a profile, and a profile really is all about, once I record my session, how do I want it delivered to students? So I want an iPod format, streaming format, flash format, audio-only format. So step 1, launch recorder. Step 2, select a profile and record. Step 3, when you're done recording, hit the stop button, press send. And behind the scenes, all the magic happens, all the automation happens around encoding that application and placing it onto a server. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rich. And
I feel like the man behind the curtain then, right? I get to do the stuff.
Do I have to push the button for you now?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're Oz. Yeah.
I'm Oz. I don't know which Oz I want to be. There's been way too many of them. So I'm going to break into what the actual product is. We asked Eric to come out here, and he asked us to come along because you got the 30-minute view of what they wanted in the product. We got it over weeks of conversations of no, it has to be like this and all those sorts of things. So we tried to break this down And then my educational background, I came in and said, okay, I know for one thing, this has to be so easy that the faculty I supported could use it. Somewhere when this recording gets out, somebody will be coming to hunt me down, I'm sure, because they know who I'm talking about. So how many of you are familiar with TechSmith and with Snagit, Screencast.com, Camtasia Studio? All right, we'll kind of fly through these slides. We're a small company out of Okemos, Michigan, about 185 employees now, growing rapidly. The company's been around since '87, so we just had our 20th birthday party last month. And we now have products in 5 languages, distribution throughout the world, and we're in about 99% of the Fortune 500 companies. So we do pretty well in terms of getting things out there. Our key thing here is we started developing this product, and as I came out of education, I said, well, listen, as an IT administrator, I was juggling 15 projects at the same time. And there was always the person who came into my office and said, oh, by the way, my class starts in 5 minutes. Can you help me with blah? And it was an emergency to get it done, and you somehow managed to get it done and put the other things on hold. And more, I started to think, well, we need to make sure we have solutions that are so easy that they will use it, they'll want to use it, and that you don't have to go to the IT person for help with these things. So we've got some applications out there. Snagit, if you're familiar with it, it's for taking pictures, essentially, of what's on your desktop, but very easily capture images right from your computer screen on a Windows machine. Camtasia Studio is more like Snagit, but for recording video. So it records everything. It does it on software. So it uses software on your computer to record everything that happens on it. So we've taken that work with Camtasia Studio, and we created Camtasia Relay. A couple other products that we have. We have the Jing project right now. It's a free project that we've got out on the web, Mac and PC based, uses a hosting service on the back end to share the files so that people don't actually have to know how to attach a file. They can actually just cut and paste the URL. As soon as they take their picture or make their short video, it's in their clipboard, they do paste, and they're on their way. Screencast.com actually is the hosting service behind Jing, but in addition to that, it's a hosting service that Camtasia Relay can use, and it also is available for people to use with Camtasia Studio or any other application they want to. So easy to use hosting service with we don't mess with your rights. Your rights are your rights. You put stuff up there, you determine privacy, who can see it, all those sorts of things. You didn't just throw it into the chaos of someone else now owns your copyright. Moray is a user testing system that we have. It allows you to actually test usability of different applications or websites, see how easy it is for someone to use it. If you want to know more about those products, feel free to stop by our booth. But there's the selection there. And so we started looking at this, and our design goal internally was this remote control. We said Apple did something right here. They created a remote control or an iPod that is so simple to use that almost anyone can use it. It has essentially 6 buttons on it. That's it. So we started saying if the big things have 100 buttons and they're really complex to use, we need to be simple. And we also wanted to make sure that we are affordable to get started. So we looked at the current things and said they're expensive, complex, difficult, tedious. And the one thing our customers who already had these solutions, they said to us is, I still use Camtasia Studio because it's mine. I can control it. I can do things with it. And actually, we have a license, but we don't use it, whatever the product was. So we started trying to say, okay, we've got to make this useful. And the other thing with Camtasia Studio that we're aware of is that it's staff intensive. Somebody has to understand how to use it. We have recordings going on at Michigan State University College of Medicine, and they actually have a staff member who goes to the lecture, starts the recording, waits, stops the recording, takes it back to the office, edits, and publishes. And that's a fair amount of staff time that they have to do that. And in that, they actually have a long lag in delivery. They promise within 24 hours or 48 hours, but they sometimes take longer than that just due to staff issues. So we took a look at the complex in Camtasia Studio, and we said we've got to get to something simple. And we came up with an interface that really all you can do from the end user interface for editing is trim the beginning and trim the end. So if you started recording a little too early or you recorded a little too late, you can remove those. But other than that, you don't have to worry about anything.
So Camtasia Studio is only Windows, but Relay is Mac and Windows?
Yep. Okay. We actually have a Mac right here we'll do the demo on. So it is both products. It's portable. It can be used without a network connection. Both of these computers they're going to do the recordings completely off the network, and then they handle the product. It will move the recording to a service that we have running on the laptops, and it will upload it as soon as it gets network connectivity back. So you can go into a lecture hall where you have no network. You can be in a coffee house where you don't want to pay $12.95 for the privilege to be on their network. You can make a quick recording, and as soon as you can get back on the network, it will get sent. We worked with playing well with others. It integrates into your existing systems. We use authentication based upon LDAP, so we can use your existing directory infrastructure so you don't have to support yet another set of usernames and passwords. Easy to support. It's a lightweight application. The PC is under 35 megs, I believe. The Mac is even smaller. It's embarrassing to say how small the Mac application is. It's tiny. And we did security in there. We put authentication in because we're going to do automatic file distribution. And we felt like, well, if we're going to make sure it gets automatically into your LMS or automatically into your system where your students can get to it, we'd better know who sent it. And then with Camtasia Studio, if you do need to edit it, you do have the option of taking a relay recording and exporting it straight to Camtasia Studio so you can edit it and do all the fun stuff with it. If somebody really wants to that level of technology, they can do that, but you don't have to. And more importantly, once you got it on your desktop, you can do recording anytime, anywhere without having IT set something up for you or make a special time. If you have a guest lecturer coming in an off hour or you go over your class time, you don't have to worry about whether the recording stopped early. So that's Camtasia Relay. So we produce files for portable media devices, Windows Media, iPod formats. We produce them for the web, Flash. We do QuickTime, so we can go to iTunes as well as iTunes U. And we can also do both formats of Flash, FLV, and SWF. So it's Flash, Windows Media, and QuickTime are the major components there. If you want to edit it in a high-end application, we can do AVI files as well. Then we automatically distribute that file for you, but it allows you to make your recording anywhere you want to. Again, don't have to be on the network, so you can go ahead and just take care of your recording when you're there. So this is the progress of how it works. The end user logs in and basically clicks record. If they want to make a test recording, they can do that. When they're done recording, they click stop, and they send it. The file is uploaded to a server or a set of servers where it can be converted in these different one or more file types. So if you have a class that you need a web file in Flash, you need the QuickTime, you need the iPod video, and you need an MP3 file, it can create all four of those file types, and it can then deliver them out to different locations, whether it be our hosting service for Screencast.com, your own web server internally, Windows or Apple or Linux, or go up to iTunes U. We can also do notifications into learning management systems such as Blackboard, as well as email notifications. And if you want the original file backed up, so if you ever need to do editing on it, you can do all of that. And that can all be automated through the process of picking a profile for your end user. So your end user doesn't have to know or understand about anything about file types, where it's going, how it's going to get there. They just pick that I'm going to teach Chemistry 101.
Are those options like all buttons available in that initial record screen, or do you have to go back and say, also create an MP3?
They're part of the profile. So when you select your class, you're actually selecting all of the different encoding options as well as the delivery options. So they're set up in advance. Now, if you wanted to go back and make a change, you could go ahead and make a change and have the next ones redo it, or you could even send a job back through the system. So that allows your users to get in on their iPod or on their desktop or wherever they want to watch it. So using Flash Progressive Download, it's almost like streaming, but you can also convert them to streaming media files for Windows or Flash. With email alerts, your professor can get an alert to know their job is done and forward on the information to their students if they want to. And then also, as I mentioned, notifications into the Blackboard system or other places where you might have RSS feeds. If your hosting service has an RSS feed, it can automatically be generated so they get their information. So the professors, they don't have to be involved in it. They can be completely out of the loop. So what the students, they can pull that information down, review it. They get it in different formats, whatever format they need. And they can also get more interaction in class because we've had several professors come to us and say, listen, what I'm going to use it for is do all my heavy lifting before they come to class. So just like they should be reading the chapter, I'm going to give them my 10-minute module before they come to class that goes through the concepts that I want them to know. And then the class can be more interactive. And so professors are talking about changing their styles if they want to. But that's an option they have. For the faculty, record anytime, anywhere. Once it's on your laptop or your desktop, you can make a recording with it. It's an extremely simple process. This is what we've tried to do. And we've also tried to do it in a way that doesn't limit what you currently teach. Everything on the computer is captured. So you don't have to go through complex steps of getting started. You can get it started right away and not worry about your class time and know that the recording is going to end in 30 seconds and I have to get done. And also, if their students are happier, I suppose your faculty might be happier, but I'm not sure about that. What we've really tried to do is make technology that can adapt to your teaching style and work in ways that you want to do. For the IT staff, we don't have any new media servers that you have to use. There's no requirement on where you have to host the media files. There are servers that do the encoding, but they're standard Windows servers. No new classroom hardware to support. You don't have to have a box in every room. Somebody doesn't have to go to a specific room to do the recording. They can do it on their laptop. And hopefully fewer support calls, because it should be simple enough to use it. They don't have to call and ask how to do it. From the administrators in the back end, it's pretty easy to roll out. It's a very small installation. If you have administrative rights, you can install it yourself. If you don't, you probably have a way to distribute these things. But as I said, it's under 40 megs, so it's very small to distribute. It's downloadable from the servers, and it's pre-configured. So as soon as you download it, it's ready to talk to the server. Use your existing hardware. You don't have to go out and buy brand new laptops. We tend to look at it as any laptop that's within 3 years old is going to work really well with this system. Somebody who's got a 6-year-old laptop running Windows 95 might have some problems because we're not going to support Windows 95. And again, anywhere, anytime, you don't have to worry about the professor trying to schedule into a specific classroom to do the recording. So this product's coming soon. We expect to ship sometime in the mid of summer. We're looking towards the possibility of doing a public beta here. We're in beta now. And we do have a website up where you can sign up for more information about the product. So let me go through. Do you want to talk a little bit about where this fits in with you guys?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier when we were talking about, when TechSmith came to us about a year ago and asked us what our needs were. Since that time, it's been, I think, really nice to allow our faculty to say, this is the system we need, and then have a vendor actually listen to the faculty and say, okay, let's do that then. So it's been really nice. Right now, we're just getting started with a lot of this. We're still looking at the challenges, issues, and all those things that we have to think about. We have about 16 faculty that are part of our little pilot group. Some are using it more than others, and some are helping to beta test more than others. But one of the things that we're looking forward to, and I actually have a slide a little bit later, is to really connect this up throughout the summer. Summer is always a great time to do kind of major deployments because faculty have a little bit more time typically to kind of think reflectively about their practice and then attend training sessions and participate. Actually, I kind of wanted to go to that next slide too. Can we skip ahead? So one of the things also we're kind of connecting onto this too is we recently awarded an AT&T grant, $25,000 grant, which is not a ton of money, but the grant was around serving underserved populations of students. So first time, to college students, not necessarily poverty level students, but those students that come to campus with an increasingly amount of challenges that face their day-to-day lives. They have all these things they're thinking about, and then there's coursework. So this grant is going to help us to provide probably Apple iPod touches for wireless connectivity to Blackboard, and then also we're hoping to engage those students when we deploy these devices to them in podcasting. And how do I grab this class, which also connects up to our Relay way of creating these podcasts. So we're hoping to kind of really leverage a lot of that stuff. Go ahead.
Let's see if this wakes up.
I didn't talk long enough while you were...
No, I didn't. I waited to switch.
So any questions so far while we're getting the live demo up?
Currently, just as a button in Blackboard, do you have it already as a menu item in Blackboard?
Well, actually, that was kind of a what's next thing for us, too, is that we really like to see a little bit deeper integration. Right now, we're working... there's a link placed in the announcements area right to that media, which then goes to wherever that media is hosted. But my perspective on it really is... Again, I think iPods are great, and having that downloaded media is great, especially for a commuter campus. Students are coming back and forth. They can listen to their class as they're driving into campus, waiting in the parking line to get in the parking ramp. But really, my focus is I want that embedded media. I want the ability to take that clip and embed it right into a Blackboard course. So right there, I've got this assessment I need to do. But first, I'm going to watch this review. Before that, I'm going to look at this article that is a link to this other resource. So I want the embedded media. I want the ability to do that sort of thing. So that's the next step from that I would like to push for, is that ability to integrate it more deeply into the Blackboard system or other course management system.
As a button for a teacher who's got weeks worth of assignments, oftentimes they have to say, go look at the integrity recording, from week 3.
Right.
So what the student has to do then is they're looking at the assignment
Right.
in week 3. They have to go back to the menu, click
Right.
on the integrity button,
Yep.
find the thing, click on it, and
Right.
then it opens in a new window.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, embedding it right inside of week 3.
Yeah, that's too many steps for a student. By the time you run all through that step, the student is like, okay, what am I doing again? Where am I going? And then they maybe click a link somewhere else and end up somewhere else. So yeah, good point.
So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And if you notice, it does say the network is not available. This machine is not connected to the network at the moment. And this is the application that they see currently. We're changing this interface to make it a bit easier to use, thanks to Eric and some other beta testers. But they essentially just go in here and pick which presentation they want to use. And they're named for their courses, so they just go ahead and pick. I'll pick the Innovations one. And at this point, if they want to do a test, they can do a test. They've got control of their audio here, so they can adjust their audio a little bit, get some gain on the microphone. The test button does a 10-second recording and brings it back up for a preview, just so they can make sure that they've got a good recording.
Now, you mentioned the microphone. Is that the microphone that they're wearing on their shirt or the microphone on the laptop?
Could be either. Now, we connect to either one that's plugged in. This currently only has one audio put into it. It's got the built-in microphone, but it does have the ability to select the built-in input as well. So if you've got a sound system in your room and you've got a plug-in to just plug into your laptop, which a lot of sound systems do, so you can capture that microphone that's already being used in the lecture room, then you'll be able to bring that right back into the machine. What we're doing currently for this one, since there's 2 speakers, I actually brought along a couple wireless microphones, and then I've got it plugged into a USB mixer, which then goes into the computer. So it's a little bit more complex, but your typical classroom, if you've got sound reinforcement, can have that built into it. And I don't think I brought it down, but we have a 10-foot cabled lapel microphone that are under $50, and it gives them a reasonable distance that they can walk away from the podium, but not a real large one. So it depends on your classroom setup.
And then we've been using, I know it's not the greatest wireless technology, but because it's like 900 megahertz, but we've had a pretty good luck with a Sony microphone. And I think Samsung has a wireless one also, where it's a USB kind of dongle that plugs in your laptop, so that USB kind of thing sits there, and then you have kind of a battery-operated device like this, a wireless lavalier mic. And there are other. Just a session earlier today where there was like this. I forgot what it's called. It's a kind of a globe-type microphone that is able to capture omnidirectionally
The Snowball.
a lot of the audio. Yeah.
Snowball.
Yep.
And
So-
that Snowball actually now makes a portable one where it actually folds completely inside of itself, and when it comes out, it can either snap onto the top of your laptop or kind of fold up into its own little kit. They're nice, really nice microphones.
Question?
A lot of classrooms, we do a lot of board work, whiteboard work, like in math classes, a lot of demos and stuff like that. Could it capture the stuff that?
We don't have a way to capture that unless they're using a tablet PC. So if it's somebody who does their whiteboard work on a tablet using the pen and just using blank slides, we capture that. We didn't want to jump into all the spaces at once, so we just came in with a simple computer recording what we've had with Camtasia Studio and tried to make it easier for people. So if you run it on the smartboard, we'll capture everything on the smartboard. Yep. So at this point, once they pick and get everything there, they literally just click record. It gives them a 5-second countdown on this particular version, and they're off and running. And now when they want to go ahead and stop on a Mac, they go down here, and they can actually see that they're recording and bring up the user interface where they can pause it or stop it at this point when they're ready to be done. So when I go ahead and pause it, it'll just go ahead and pause and stop there. I can restart it whenever I'm ready. Some people actually like to start it and immediately pause it so that they've already done all their login and everything and waiting for the class to start, and then they get their projector set up. But on the other hand, once they're completely done, and we do have hotkeys available as well, they just click stop. Get that down. And then they get a post-recording interface that at this point, the Macintosh version doesn't have trimming enabled on it, but they would just trim in from the ends here. They could zoom in, see the point where they actually started class, trim off the beginning, trim off the end, and once they're all done, they just click send. And now we do have a bit of a complex bit of text here, which we're changing, but it basically says, do you want to make another recording or do you want to keep going? And I just click quit. But it's really log in, pick their course, start recording.
Where was the option for choosing multiple formats?
That's all done on the back end on the server. So when they picked a course, that course actually has all the settings done on the server. If you'd like to stop by the booth, I can show you that. It's a bit more complex in that you log into a website. Since I don't have network connectivity here, I can't really do it.
And can we see, are we going to be able to see the recorder in PC mode, or in the system tray? Or?
It currently is in the system tray, but we have 3 ways to get to it. Let me bring the PC back up here. So on the PC, I can do a couple different things here. I can go to my Start menu, and I can launch the application again itself. And at that point, I get to the same current you're recording, and I can go ahead and pause it or stop it from there. If I minimize that back out of the way, actually, if I just close it, it won't actually stop recording. It just closes out of the way. I can also, as you mentioned, go down to my taskbar, pull it up from there. Oops, click on the right thing, as you mentioned. And I can get it from there. Now, the third option is I can bring it down, and we'll go ahead and do at the very end. I'll go ahead. This is the URL, actually, that we'll have is just techsmith.com/innovations. It's actually a redirect right now. It points to the Camtasia Relay page. We'll change it later this afternoon after we get this uploaded. I will go ahead at this point, and I'm just going to hit my